And we are live. Matt, how are you today? You good?
Really good, Lee. Really good. How are you?
I'm very good indeed. There's been dramas already this morning. You've had a random crack in your window that's just appeared out of nowhere.
It's all going on. That and good conversations around Sports Day
Sports
brings
day.
out the most competitive side in both of us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're blessed with your presence today as you are missing the egg and spoon race, the beanbag on the head race, the three-legged race. I don't think they do wheelbarrow races anymore because that
Big
was
shame.
yeah,
Yeah.
a big shame. Parent race as well, you're missing today, all to be on the club webinar, which is amazing.
This was the important one, though. This is the one you trained for.
This is it. This is it. And
Yeah.
I gave you a top tip when it comes to attending sports days. Don't wear flip flops if you attend or if you participate in the parents' race. As I found out last year, flip flops is not the right attire to be running the dad's race. All right. So just a bit of a warning for next year, and hopefully you attend that one. And hopefully, there's no family kerfuffles later and everybody's still talking to you. Just play them back this webinar and say, I know I missed it, but how great was this webinar with the club? um,
Bro.
as always, thank you everybody for joining us. Today, we're going to kick things off because I know me and Matt like to talk quite a bit about what's going on in the wonderful world and tech and everything else. So, as always, if you've got any questions, please do feel free to throw them up in the comments section below, or you're more than welcome to ask things a little bit more anonymously in the Q&A section. As I panic looking at my screen, trying to find the chat function, there it is. It's probably over on the wrong screen now. Throughout the course of today, we will have a couple of polls as well, so it'd be good to hear your thoughts and get some live insights. But let's get right into today's session. Just a quick introduction to the club. Co-founders Amanda, myself, and Lewis. Amanda's background is running two large national firms, one on a self-employed front and another on an employed front. So good experience in supporting and growing financial planning businesses. Myself and Lewis, our background is predominantly recruitment. We set up Anthony George Recruitment over 10 years ago, solely focused on the financial planning space, fixing the cost of recruitment as a bit more of a subscription-based model. And the absolute glue to everything we do is the incredible Jade Ling. She's the one that makes sure everything goes according to plan and makes sure that we are behaving at all times. I've shared my LinkedIn QR code off the back of today's session and all of our other webinars. I do create articles. You'll see some short reels and you'll see some content coming off the back of today's webinar as well. So do give me a follow if you want to be staying up to date with what's going on in club lives. But look, we couldn't do what we do without the incredible support of all of our collaborators. It's great content delivered by some awesome firms at the moment. Today, we are joined by Matt at FE Fund Info for a really good, insightful session. Not our first, not our last. We've got plenty more in the pipeline, which is always good to see. Touching briefly on the club in terms of community support, we've got individual WhatsApp groups depending on the role that you play within your organization. So if you're an owner manager, whether you're an advisor, you play an ops role. Power Planner is, really good. It's really good if you've got any power planners in your business. We've got a WhatsApp group with over 500 power planners in it now. Those guys and girls talk all day long. The good, the bad, the ugly, which is always entertaining just to sit back and have a little read through the comments of that particular WhatsApp group. Club Lives are our webinars every single Friday. Every now and then they make me do one on a Wednesday as well, Matt. Can you believe it? A Wednesday and a Friday. No rest for the wicked. But they are slowing things down over the summer holidays, so that's quite nice. The podcast as well is great. That's run by Lewis. It's owner managers of financial planning businesses, really hearing their stories and why they do what they do. You'll hear, the highs of the business and the lows as well. So if you've got a story to tell, then please do come along to the podcast and we'll get you on. And likewise, listen to any of our episodes back on wherever you listen to your podcasts. All right. So your Spotify, your iTunes, and and anywhere else. What we've got coming up, got a couple of very good webinars coming up. We are with Morningstar on Friday, the 12th of June, to discuss all things volatility, portfolio resilience, and navigating uncertain markets. So that's a good one. Wednesday, the 17th of June, we are with LV, new tax rules, new opportunities, smarter planning with bonds and trusts. Again, both of those webinars are already getting really good traction and sign up. And finally, we're back with Aspen now, our friends from the north. Aspen will be challenging whether traditional risk profiling still reflects modern client needs with real world financial goals. So there is a lot of good content coming up over the coming weeks. That's 3 webinars in June. So no Fridays off for me. And there's a little one in Wednesday there as well. So no doubt Jade will slip another webinar in the month of June somewhere along the lines as well. Joined today by Matt, heads up strategic accounts at FE Fund Info. Matt works closely with advice firms on tech, integration, and operational efficiency, helping firms build more connected. I think the key word there is connected, along with scalable advice processes. Matt, thank you very much for joining us today. And as you all know, Matt is missing Sports Day to be on this webinar. It's unbelievable the commitment this guy gives to us all the time. Quick snapshot of the room. As always, a good mix of advisors, planners, some operational leaders from firms of all different sizes today. So that's really good. One of the clearest themes that we're noticing is that most firms are still dealing with disconnect systems and intergenerational gaps across their, integration gaps across their tech stack. Client onboarding, suitability reporting, and annual reviews are also creating the biggest admin burden for firms right now. I can imagine that's the kind of stuff you're hearing all the time, Matt, right?
It's constant.
Yeah.
And it's amazing as well to think, with the technology and the data that's available now, how far we've come even in the 10 years that I've worked with FE, the prior 9 years that I've been in financial services. It's incredible. But these are still really prominent issues everyone is talking about on a daily basis. But change is coming, and we're seeing it more and more every single day. And it's really exciting to see because, everything has been expedited, I suppose. It's the best way for me to look at the ecosystem that's around us. Everything's moving quicker.
Is there a race to get it done first, would you say? Are people competing?
Yeah, very much so. I think, it's a no-brainer that, you will have seen over the past couple of months, years. There was always this sort of race to be able to build in more parts, I suppose, of the advice process and connect the dots more. And previously, I would say that was done a lot through just open APIs, starting out to really just get bits of certain kit, almost relating in isolation, but just start talking to each other. Simple push and pulls of bits of data. Now, because the actual systems themselves have become more free, more open, there's actually a lot more crossover, a lot more collaboration, a lot more consolidation as well within the market. And with that, you start to see systems that don't just cross over in terms of functionality, but they can just do more. And people reap the benefits of all the combined technology working together.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, it's something that the industry needed, right? It needed this push on tech as an industry as a whole. When you think about a real old school traditional financial planning firm, a lot of people talk about filing cabinets and paper based and real sort of old and traditional businesses in the way that they're run as such. And I think if you fast forward to the clock to where we are today, some firms are at the complete opposite end of that. So really embedding AI integration, technology, and it's incredible to see, right? I think it's good for the industry. I think it's a great way to also bring in different generations into the industry as well. Some of these tech savvy people that are coming into the advice world now is absolutely incredible. I will stop sharing my screen as we pass over to yourself, Matt, for another awesome session. Thank you very much.
No worries. Look, you make some really, really good points on that in terms of, how the direction of travel of people entering the industry comes in, and what we see as advice professionals within the industry. But I always take it back to the end client, like me, you, anyone else out there that's looking for financial advice. Fundamentally, how they adopt technology is drastically changing.
Yeah.
So it's no different that their expectation of financial advice is also going to be in that same view. They're going to expect everything in their life to be presented in a different way, to be accessible in a different way than it's ever been before. And I think you paint a really good picture there. Like, as soon as you say those points about what an old office would have looked like, and maybe then you're thinking now, right, okay, if we want to address the advice gap and we want to bring on board new people that are actually adopting technology quicker than they've ever done before, we've got to move with the times.
Yeah, I think people are far more forward thinking as well, because when you look at any part of your business now, it can be fixed with something. You just need to know what that something is. And we're supporting a firm recruit at the moment, and they said this next person, I just want them to be able to build a certain part of their business out for them. And you don't often get that with people. If somebody's looking for a power planner, they're looking to recruit a power planner because they need some research and reports written and a 10 client, blah, 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 blah. But the outlook on this person was, no, I want them to build this part. I wanted to change this. I want them to innovate that part of the advice process. It's like, that's incredible, because you don't often hear that. It's kind of, this is how we do it. I want you to come in and do it how we do it. But some of these firms are really looking about, how can we do things differently now? Because there are so many different ways we can do stuff.
The roles are shifting. I think that's a really, really good summary of like how we're seeing things and how the market will change. So, I mean, let's jump straight into it and see if we can
Let's do it.
some break parts forward. So thank you so much again, Lee, for having us on today. Like, really appreciated. What we've brought together, I suppose, is a loose agenda, and where we're going to start is with the challenges that we are speaking to people about day in, day out. So we have been around for 25 years. FE Fund Info, advisors, power planners, people within the industry might touch our products in various different ways, whether they're seeing the data that goes into platforms, they're seeing how this appears through systems like analytics or TrustNet, or they're working with maybe data sets they didn't even know were ours in digital tools that are used across the industry. So we'll talk about the challenges that we're facing across the advice process today. And then we'll start to share some insights as well around what we found, gathering that feedback from our community. What does that really look like? And start to use some of those real examples and see, if they resonate, see if people are finding the same sort of challenges. Then we will start walking you through our thought process behind the solutions and what our vision is. And moving that forward, at the back end of this, I'll start to show you the peek behind the curtain of how firms are already tackling these problems through our solutions.
Love that.
Cool. So there'll be 4 outcomes as well today. So everyone gets the benefit of CPD. So we've got understand a 3-layer architecture of an integrated advice platform.
Matt, quick one. Are you supposed to be sharing a screen right now?
Am I not sharing a screen? Forgive me, guys. Sorry about that.
I'm sure we're supposed to be I'm sure we're supposed to be looking at something right now.
Don't worry about it. We only missed the oversight of the front end. So sorry, I'll bring things back up on here. Can you see everything now, Lee?
I've got everything, mate. I've got everything. Cool.
So back into our CPD learnings. Identify inefficiencies in the fragmented advice workflows. Examine practical applications of AI agents across the advice process. And then access and I suppose really bring that to life through one platform. Cool.
Yeah.
So to be able to get us kickstarted, obviously we're really interested in finding out, is everyone in the room feeling the same things that we've heard from our community as well? So I'd love to be able to kick it off with a poll, if that's all right.
Let's do it.
And the question that we'd love to ask is, how many different applications do you use regularly in your advice practice?
I like this question, right? Because we speak to a lot of owner managers, and at some point, somebody's always got a piece of tech sitting on their balance sheet that nobody uses, right? It's that they've bought it, looks great, team weren't bought into it, so they just steer clear of it. Do you generally feel that advisors want fewer systems, or do they just want better integration?
It's a really good question. To me, this has shifted drastically over the past 2 years, I would say. We went from a position where most providers and advisors conversations were based around best of breed integration. And I believe that the problem came up that it sounded great in principle, but in reality, integration was not very cost effective. It takes 2 to tango, and you never know which way, if you're working in a triangle, you never know which party is in control of what part. Everyone wants to work together, but how much and where does that sit in their priorities to be able to do that? The other thing was the depth of those integrations. You could start off and maybe some bits would say, right, great, we've got this integration. We can push and pull, or we can just pull, or we can just push. And it started to have a real different level of saying, right, it's not just integration. I've now got to do another layer of work to work out what does that really mean in practice, and how much efficiency am I really being passed on the back end of it.
Yeah.
The third part of that really came into then what does the integration really free up? For example, how much data is being passed between here? Is it making a significant difference, or is it just doing the start of the process? And actually, it just pushes the problem down to another part of the journey, which is not connected. Because it's very hard to bring all those pieces together. And this is where I think there's been a significant shift. And if I'm frank, from a lot of the conversations we've had with advisors, they are predominantly they've already done a lot of the work already to start to shift down their use of systems. That best of breed approach has already started to shift as more technology providers have brought more things into one space. It just makes it easier, simple from cost, relationship management, data trust, compliance, audit trails, everything.
Yeah. I'd be interested. Let us know in the chat, guys and girls in attendance. Do you want fewer systems, or do you just want them to talk between each other a lot more seamlessly? Do you find it as a tech provider, if you like, that sometimes you will and they won't? It's got to be a two-way street with a lot of these firms. But are you quite open to integrating API feeds into most? But do you ever get pushback from the other end saying no?
Yeah, it comes up every now and then. But I think I like to say that in the industry, it's not a flat no. Very rarely, if ever, I don't think I've ever come across a flat no as such. Most people in the industry will have the same view, which is we are here to be able to support the delivery of better client outcomes. Right? It's client centricity. If we don't focus on that end part, we will never address the gap. The audience will shrink over time. It won't grow. So, we need to be able to support the industry in the best way that we can. That's our responsibility. And in that, everyone understands the power that, it's unless that everyone, is trying to go out there and do every piece of the puzzle, it's very hard to be able to do that. The jack of all trades term comes along and bring it together. So you have to identify, okay, look, this is the part that we sit within, and where are we going to be able to grow, right? Where do we need to be able to partner? And that is why, you've seen companies from the technology side invest in open APIs and broadening that out. And the industry as a whole has just got more transparent. It's got more connected. Things have started to move. But again, I would say that over the past 2 years, that's where we've seen that work already done. It almost now leaves you in a situation that if you aren't in an open API situation, or you don't have an API that people can connect into, you sort of become an island and you're at risk.
Yeah. And this is it. Many firms will have many people have their firm favorites as to what bit of tech gives them the best output for their business, whether you're looking at your cash flow, your research, your CRM as a whole. And just by going what people are saying, they don't want fewer. They just want better seamless integration. They love the tech that they work. And I can see, I'm going to end the poll and share the results, because, 69% are using 4 to 6 systems, which is where you'd expect it. They were probably at 7 to 10 not so long ago, and they might have scaled back a little bit. I love the one piece of honesty in the room there. I've lost count. I just love that. I just don't know. And we've all been there, right?
You think about it in your personal life with subscription 100%. Models and the rest of it. How many TV applications that you might have, from your Netflix to your Disney to
Absolutely.
You just add them in now, and you think that again, you would have the time to be able to sit there and quantify what is the value that all this is adding. But in reality, it's very hard. The predominant job is to be able to be out there servicing the clients, having that face-to-face contact. So it's another role to be able to bring in and start to think about your full operation, your advice process as one workflow. What bits are really causing pain, and what bits do you really need to solve, or would be solved by being connected?
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. I mean, that's really, really interesting as well, that, there's still a lot in that 4 to 6 bracket.
Yeah.
This is just some examples of what we've seen from our most recent survey. So we surveyed with 100 advisors of all different shapes and sizes across the industry. And from that, we saw some really interesting results. When you look at that, it's almost a contradictory statement that, 80% of people are more positive, or they have a more positive business outlook than in 2025. 95% of them have onboarded AI tooling in some shape or form in their process, but 95% of them say they use too many applications.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
really interesting mix, and we'll see this as a learning curve as we go through this, and this has really come through in a lot of our conversations too. We talk about things like adding AI as another layer. Over the past 2 years, that has come in significantly, and it's taken a full, very steep ramp up to be able to go, right, okay, if we're not on board, we're going to miss the boat. And this is moving very, very quickly, and we need to make sure that we keep up with how technology is pushing forward. But at the same time, have we had enough time to be able to think about how AI will really help us shape the efficiencies that we need? Do we know where we want to apply it? Do we know what part of the business that's going to really move the needle? That is where, you can end up adding more layers very quickly. And maybe you suddenly went shortening down from your 7 to 10 to your 4 to 6. And
Yeah.
before you know it, you've now got a note taker and a suitability report writer and something else. And now you've got another problem to be able to connect all the dots together. So
Yeah.
it's a really interesting time to be in the market. The other thing that comes up a lot as well is that some of the problems still haven't shifted. Now, the reality is, when you painted that picture earlier, we can think about what a traditional office might have looked like with the filing cabinets and with a lot of data. But if you think about actually then zooming in and just even looking at someone's laptop, let's say you don't have the filing cabinets anymore, and you just look at, right, what someone's doing on a day-to-day basis, how much of this work is stuck in spreadsheets
Yeah.
where you're pulling together bits of information, whether it's structured data, unstructured data, and you're just trying to go, right, help me get this in one space so that I can read it in a way that I can understand, or the regulator can understand, our compliance team can understand, and you can really start to form out, what that looks like. And 192 hours lost on reconciling data, just checking between maybe a platform and a CRM. It's huge.
That's mental. Yeah, that is. And even with the likes of, Copilot, if anyone's cracked Copilot in Excel at the moment, I think we need a one-to-one, because I still can't wrap my head around it. I still think there's better AI out there that can read and, digest spreadsheets far more better than Copilot. But Copilot sits within my ecosystem. Why can't I use it more efficiently? And I think it's Cameron made a valid point as well. If it was all in one, it'd be more convenient, but the quality would likely dip. And that relates back to what I just mentioned about Copilot. It's in my ecosystem. It's amazing, but the quality is not there. I get better output from something else. And then you talk about costs, right? If you've got an all-in-one, singing, all dancing, all the bells, is that going to come at a premium? It's
completely. And I think that's it. Like, these are the challenges that I really feel for everyone in the market facing right now. No different on any side of the business. You'll be looking in some way to consolidate, to be able to bring down your costs per head and your average. Then also, the cost that comes into that from operational costs, the risk of training on 5 different systems compared to one different system. There's so many different things to evaluate when you're looking at who's the right partner for you and what makes it right. But it's really interesting, from that, we're seeing, like, on the confidence part, we summarize it as confidence is running ahead of capability. And maybe that plays back to the point that Cameron makes here, as in, you can bring all these things into one space, but then are you going to get the confidence that it's going to deliver and it's going to meet the standard that you've set out? Are those tools that bring everything together going to be able to deliver up to the same as best of breed? That will be the question that comes through.
Yeah, 100%. And Ronnie, I'm with you on this, right? I'm here because he knows what the problem is. He knows what the problem is. He's just looking for some input on what the solution is. Now, Ronnie, I reckon if you'd done an insights test, you'd be very similar to me. You'd be very red on top, and it's be brief, be bright, and be gone. We're going to get to the solution. Bear with us for 2 more minutes.
Very much so. And look, we're not a million miles away from it, Ronnie. So I'll be really happy to be able to just explain, and just share a bit of insight. But look, in short, this is where we're seeing the benefits across the people in terms of whether it's the cost of, like, really understanding, in 3 different areas. That can be time, risk, and capacity. Effectively, you're either going to be saving time, you're going to be reducing your risk, or you're going to be expanding your capacity by making these tweaks of bringing these bits together. And so, like, how we're addressing this and starting to bring this together is we look at it in a very simple model. So this is broken down into 3 layers, 6 core workflows, and predominantly it looks a little bit like this. We're going to start to go through, our thought process here. So we start off with a unified platform. And what we mean by that is just that one single space that you can go in, log into, and it connects this technology together. Saving on the training costs, saving on the learning costs. It's then more about, right, okay, the advisor sits in the driving seat and the technology does more of the heavy lifting. How we improve that then is all of the ask, so from what the advisor sees is all in one place. We then utilize technology like AI and agents and all the rest of those pieces to bring that data to life. And we create that AI layer that sits above the data foundation underpinned beneath it. And the data foundation, is things that people have already tried and tested for many years before. At FE Fund Info, for the past 25 years, we've been running the research and analysis tools that power the industry through things like FE Analytics. We've been building the cash flow and onboarding tools through FE Cash Calc. We brought in Advisor Asset, which is really renowned for doing costs and charges, pension consolidation, switching tools. And then most recently, we've added to that data set in MI data, data expertise, data cleansing, and platform data as well through the acquisition of Contengo, which now forms Command Deck within our space. And so we now have created this sort of core data foundation that we can pull upon, utilizing all the AI capabilities, but feed it out in one central platform. So with that, it gives us a lot of power to then take that in different angles. So for example, all of this part gives us the kind of the creativity to go, okay, well, what do you actually need the system to do? What direction do you want to take this data? Do you need to be able to combine together, I don't know, this certain data set with X, for example? You're going through a basic onboarding workflow. I need to be able to connect maybe my CRM system because I need that to be everywhere as my single source of truth that the data goes back to. But at the front end of it, I need it to be a really nice journey for the client. They need to be able to be interacting with it. I need to capture as much information as possible to save them time, save money. And then at the back end of it, I need to be able to use that information in a meaningful way. So if I'm doing a cash flow plan off the back of it, I'm connecting it up to their research. If I can pull all that information back through and feed it into their platform at the end of it, even better. I reduce risk. I reduce any sort of keying. It just helps my data flow where it needs to go. So we do that with a range of specialized agents that work on different purposes in between. I'm going to start to dig into what some of these workflows look like. So as you can see, we've kind of laid it out in various different ways. And to be honest, this is a constant moving landscape, but this is just some of our thought process behind it. If we take client onboarding, we allow each individual step that you go through in that journey, and then start to bring behind it on the right-hand side of our screen, the tools and the data foundation to be able to support it. And it really starts to, hopefully you can see that there's so much crossover in here, and we will continuously invest in that data foundation because the data is key. I don't know if you've seen the same or from any of the feedback, Lee, across the group, but from most of the most of the presentations that we've been to, the award dinners, the conversations that we've had, or even any of the seminars that we've been to across the country. A key point about adopting any of the new technology and how to be able to win the hearts and minds is, can you trust it?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And we have it in our business as well. We all play with AI, even if you do it personally, not professionally. Even if you're sodding around with ChatGPT or whatever, and it gives. I mean, I see a post the other day, and someone put on ChatGPT, "I need to get my car washed, and I need to get my car washed, and the car wash is 100 meters away. Should I walk or drive?" And ChatGPT said, "Well, walk. It's easier." But the defeats the object. You need to get your car washed. You got to take your car. But do you know what I mean? So I think it is that element of, do I trust AI enough to put it into such a heavily regulated environment?
Yeah. And if I'm frank, we've taken such a journey with AI as well over the past couple of years, including, how we've partnered with large companies like Microsoft, Anthropic, looked at all the different technology there. We learned a lot of lessons in-house before we even brought it out to market, because there was so much to be able to do with the unstructured data, and to be able to learn those lessons, understand the pitfalls, understand where it could best be used before we brought it into products, so that actually you can go and look at something that's tried and tested. We've worked on it over months and months and months, but also the iterations come quicker than ever before. Once you've got these things starting, you've got that data foundation right, you can move quicker.
When somebody implements an AI agent, does it break another part of the process, or does it just highlight the inefficiencies of the way you're working?
It's a really good question. I suppose it could do both. Like it depends, I suppose, on how that workflow looks for you at the moment, and how disproportionate it is. For example, it's one of the things that we found in with like meeting note takers, for example. Like it can work really well in isolation and capture loads of information. We see, 95% of the market are probably engaged in meeting note taking.
Yeah.
It's been there for a while. Whether we see fireflies in here, we work with our own ones constantly, day to day. That pain point was easily identified, and a problem was found to be able to fix that solution.
Yeah.
What people are finding from there is that once they start to generate all that information, how easy is that to move on to another bit of the kit?
Yeah.
So it breaks apart in their process because, for example, you could start collecting fields of data that just can't be used or can't be moved anywhere.
Yeah.
That's a real problem within the industry.
It is.
We are pretty good at, as an industry, we're pretty good at working with structured data. It's quite tried and tested now, fund data, pricing, performance, all the things that you want to be able to get, costs and charges, anything, even prospectuses and stuff like that. Unstructured data is a new world.
Yeah.
And bringing that in and thinking about the ways that we want to use that is fundamentally shifting.
But that's the beauty of agents, right? It's the agents is what takes that transcript and puts it in all the places that you need it, right? That's the whole purpose of an agent. An agent physically goes and does something for you. A ChatGPT output or any output from any sort of AI provider, that's not an agent, that's an output from a prompt. Where now these agents are coming into the workflows, that's where things go from AI is great to AI is flipping awesome. It's now just it's probably highlighted other inefficiencies within the business because maybe the agent can't go that far yet, but there's still time.
Definitely. And I mean, the kind of thought process that's going behind this is so vast. We touch on the surface level of going, just right, what bits can we fix in the advice process as one example and different workflows? I think, people will look at this and probably go, all right, cool, but we've got something. It's almost like once you've done something, hundreds of times over, it becomes almost uniform. You work out the quickest and most efficient way to be able to do it. So it might be very hard to be able to look at this and think, okay, right, how much value is it really going to add? But the proof's in the pudding because it's not just about one of these things that you use in isolation. It's about combining them all.
Yeah.
And that compounds your efficiencies massively. And then if you can think about the same thing, that as long as you've got that data layer beneath it, almost the workflows can be as creative as you want to be able to get. We're looking at different ways that it will tie in. You take anything like any bit of news that could instantly be read, that can link back to what your clients are already invested in and tailor that messaging back to get, why is this important? Why does it matter? How do you collate, again, multiple streams and bring it into one space that is constantly telling you, is this portfolio suitable? What is changing within the market? And you've got the remit to be able to take in that information and actually have assistance in terms of why does it matter? How do you deliver this? So really interesting time.
We've got an awesome list here, right? Of the onboarding, meeting prep.
Okay.
What would you like number 7 to be?
Well, I'd love to open it up to people, to be honest, and to find out more because, we're not going to be the people with all of the ideas in the room. The best advice, that we've got is we get the most input from things like our workshops and our conversation with clients. So it's probably a really good time, I'd say, to move that into a second question and find out from the audience in terms of...
find out. You've seen, that's it. What AI agents? Sorry, mate. Yeah, you've seen the list of 6 there. If anything stood out to you that why is this not on the list, let us know. But we've got another poll here, right? And that's it. If you could have an AI agent handle one workflow completely, which would create the most value? For people that aren't on board or embedded with AI agents, where do you think firms are most realistically ready to adopt them today?
So today, where we're seeing it is mostly through the onboarding stage.
Okay.
Where they're taking in agents and they're utilizing them for things like extract data out of something.
Yeah.
And that could be extracting data out of a fact find, extracting data out of a transcript.
Mm,
It's usually that extraction at the front end because it's the easiest part to be able to find.
mm,
If you think back to how this was solved before, you would have maybe a power planner going through maybe multiple prospectuses or income reconciliation statements and
mm,
trying to find just certain bits of information that they need to be able to copy over or
mm.
put into a different document. So
Yeah.
much manual time wasted. You've got things that can do this in seconds now.
Yeah. Well, this is it. It's that onboarding piece. When you've got all of the information gathered, you got everything back. It's kind of, how do I get all this on the system, right? It's kind of, it's here. Just go and do it for me.
It's exactly that. Yeah. And it's really interesting to see that in the poll results as well.
Yeah, it is.
45% at the moment on the client onboarding workflows. And the second part, which we almost link together, is that meeting preparation. It's
Yeah.
all based around that front end with the client where people are starting to see the real value.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I tell you what gives me a nice bit of confidence because hopefully what I show at the end then ties in nicely to this because, it's a no-brainer as to where most firms have focused the attention is starting to bring that information together and helping with that workflow because it's the feedback that we're having.
Mm. James has gone straight in with a question, mate. Let's give him some answers. So from our end, the biggest issue that they have is populating portfolios on FE. So every time they make a fund switch on a platform, they then need to enter that data onto FE. Just need a link between the platforms whereby the data automatically pulls through and transactions are updated. Where are we at with that?
James, if you can give me 8 minutes, we'll say 8, I'll try and aim for less. I'll show you where we're at.
There we go. Excellent. I'll quickly share the results just so the audience can see. And yeah, we're top end. Client onboarding, meeting prep, annual reviews, no change recommendations. And as we scale down a little bit, and maybe this is a bit of a confidence thing, suitability report, compliant documentation, portfolio analysis and benchmarking, platform execution coming in at the bottom there. So thank you all for giving us your insights.
It's really, really useful. And I mean, let's focus on just picking out one of them, top one that came up in terms of how do we look to do this? And so, in short, we have various different bits of kit beneath. And I'm really just trying to highlight this, I suppose, so that you can see, right, what are the complexities that we're trying to be able to cover? And, you now take it a step down from that high level and really drill into this and go, what does that mean? Now, we've been doing this for a number of years. And the one thing that I would highlight out is that we understand that it's not just a case of the technology being there. There's hearts and minds to be won over in this. How your clients engage with technology, right? If you've got an average age of, between 40 to 50 or something like that for the end client, like how familiar are they with the technology? We know this because we've been through it 4 or 5 years ago when people were getting used to digital fact finding. We had the questions that were coming up about saying, my clients will never fill in a digital fact find. Well, we've seen the results. We've seen people now self on board. We've seen the way that technology has changed this. And we've seen that they've seen enough value in the benefit of being able to do that, free up the time, spend the time more valuably with the financial advisor and get more from it. End of the day, it delivers that better outcome. And so we're starting to see this more, right? And we can help with that sort of hearts and minds piece as well, because we're well versed in it. But we'll start to go through a journey where, if we're making this more concrete, we can use that front end to basically extract more information than we've ever extracted before. All the unstructured things like in the background, being able to perform those vulnerability assessments on the fly, utilizing, the FCA guidelines and building that into the technology. Then from there, pulling that information in, creating your client record, your initial starting point that again could be pushed out to various different areas, moving that through maybe to instantly using that data and putting it in something for purpose for you. So how can we just take that shift where it goes, right, okay, you've got all this information through, we've had that all from a conversation without touching a key, into going, right, it's now pre-populated a cash flow and I can instantly get the visuals of what does your situation look like today just from a conversation. And you can pull out reporting off the back end of this as well. Can it instantly do that same bit of work where, right, okay, we connect up the dots and now suddenly it starts to pull through the portfolio because we know the client, it recognizes the client, it can pull that in from different APIs and connectors that we've got and start to bring that recommendation together before you even go in to be able to take a look. And your job changes more to be right, we can review, we can set in what makes us us, and then we can review. And the AI can sort of lift and shift and start to read from that, which is really interesting. Risk assessments, again, I really like the point that you made earlier. I'm interested in joining in the Aspen sessions when it comes up as well in the coming weeks. But yeah, we fundamentally agree, I think. I think the way that risk assessments are done today will fundamentally change.
Mm.
And part of that will be through these workflows. So, they have to remain fluid. They have to be changing constantly and also allow you to be able to tweak the parts that you need to. And at the back end of it, this is where, as you can see, we're really just starting to connect up all of that underlying tech into better workflows. So there might be other ways that you're thinking online of doing this, but this is just one example here. I will tap into the second, or actually, I think it was the third on here, but it had the biggest number of votes in terms of annual reviews. We know this is something that people want to be able to bring together. And we know that some systems are starting to do this. But if we're frank, no one's quite cracked the nut.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the hardest bits about that is that reliance on different data sets. And if you then say, right, okay, one, we're isolated, any tool almost now today, you mentioned Copilot, Claude, any of these bits of kit could probably, you take in the data, you feed it in, and it can start to generate outputs.
Yeah.
That is well versed in the world today. But the difference with this will be how it interprets the data. What does it know what to be able to do with the data? In the same way as if you go to a system now that goes, right, okay, great, we can pull this in from your CRM. We can pull this little bit in from your platform. We can pull that in there. Does it know how to interpret all of those pieces, or are you having to put more time into instructing it? What if that's all in one place and they already talk to each other? They already understand the data sets. That's the key difference. This isn't so much, like a drag then to be able to pull. The system's already connected. It can build that into more of the workflows. And this is where we see, a massive change. It's a big focus for us within the year. We've already done some work on it, which I can lightly touch on at the end of today as well, just to see, what's available here. But it's in no way finished. Our predominant view has been sort the data points first, bring in all the data, the reporting elements will follow.
Love that.
And so as a final question on that, I did promise 8 minutes, so I know I'm only 2 minutes away from it. I will be right on this. I would love to know from from the audience that we've got today, what would successful integration actually look like?
I think it's an interesting point you made a moment ago about the digital fact finds and the nervousness of people saying our clients are not going to fill in those digital fact finds. I think in reality, when you don't give people a choice, they're not going to walk away from your service just because they've got to do something different. I mean, even if you think about your doctors these days, you've got to fill out a form before you go and see the doctor. You've almost got to self-diagnose your problems to get an appointment with a doctor. So I think it's kind of, you got to be open for these changes in life and in your business. And if it's something that's more efficient, more streamlined, you just think about that single process that was implemented by the doctors. How much time do you think that saved? Just getting ahead of the curve as such. So it's interesting just how we are in the industry today and where we're going to be in the next 6 months. I think like you said, this is far from a finished product, but it's evolving all the time, isn't it? Just like most things.
It's so interesting. I think it's the engagement part as well, right? When we started out with digital onboarding, like why did we do digital onboarding? Best example I can give is, myself, whether it's me getting financial advice or me doing a mortgage. Mortgage was the easiest one on there. I remember getting the fact find through, a paper-based fact find, like 40 pages. And even just the idea of me having to go, I'm going to have to manually pick up a pen and I'm going to fill this thing in, really threw me off. Like it in no way engaged me in the process. It didn't make this easy. It didn't make me want to be involved, right? Changing that in a simple way, just putting it into a digital environment, small change, big difference.
Massive.
Basic things of, you go onto one of the founders actually of CashCout used to always say this. When you go onto an airline website or any website nowadays, we have to put your details in, let's say your address. Nothing more infuriating than having to type in every bit of your address.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want it to search and find.
Yeah.
And this is it. If this is the way that our end clients are engaging with technology, why would it be any different with us?
Yeah.
It
Absolutely.
needs to move forward. You don't want to have to go, right, okay, I'll go into here. My experience is now different because I've got this platform portal over here for part of my portfolio and this platform portal here and this there. It doesn't look and feel like one collected data set that actually you're really helping them take control of their finances.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it needs to shift.
So all of the above, mate, for most people here,
Yeah. I
is a
love an all
firm
the
favourite.
above.
Yeah,
It's,
all of the
it's,
above.
a,
Yeah, it's just like I can't decide between the three or four. It's just all of them.
it's a classic.
Yeah.
Well, look, I've ran over time, to be honest, and I would love to kind of just get past this. But look, in short, there is a lot that can be done. There's a lot that can be made in terms of value off the back end of this. But I think it'd be really useful just to jump into, look, how could this look and where our clients today are really seeing value. So I'm going to give you a bit of a run through, and I'm going to start off just to set out the journey, like really focusing in on that 192 hours that I mentioned about earlier. Even if you take nothing else away from this, please do remember, and you'll see this same messaging going throughout at the moment, the data is key. Like, if we don't get the data right, whatever happens in your AI, you all know this from your own experiences with it. Bad input in, bad input out. Like it's going to be the same. And so I'm going to flip this over, and I'll stop sharing for 1 second, and I will start sharing again so you can see something live. Let's have a look. Where can we? We end the show for a sec?
Yep.
All right, nice. So the first point in terms of where we're helping our audience today is really getting on top of their data. And this is a prime example. One of the parts of our Nexus platform is called Command Deck. Command Deck, in short, can help with everything from visualizing your business, giving it a full overview of where your assets sit, helping with problems like things, basic stuff. Are you collecting the right fees from your clients? Are they set up on the right fee structure within the platforms? Are there issues in your data sets? Have you got a random client that's listed down as, they're 125 on one system? Probably not.
Yeah.
Can you drill down on that? Can you look at it a whole firm view, and then can you go into a different level where you can look at that per advisor, and you can really start to drill down and going, okay, where's our splits? What's really adding value?
That's cool.
At the same point on that, how can you quantify the quality of your data today? Right? We know that most data sits on CRM systems, but it's spread and it's disparate between what's on the CRM and what's on the platforms. How are we helping people? We're helping them to be able to raise that into one simple area where they can then make meaningful adjustments to it. And you can actually see the combination of the two. What is missing from my CRM? Can I now go in there and make meaningful actions off the back end of this? Can I start loading up plans and see some policies, for example, that haven't come through? Can I check that per platform? Can I see, right, over time, how has that improved? Where do I want to be able to get to before I even start using the data in a more meaningful way? We're also helping users at the front end as well with collating that data together. So, if any of you on the session today are thinking about things like, right, one of the ways we want to slim down the systems we're using is maybe asset transfer. Can we create a process that helps us to be able to slim down the amount of platforms that we're working with? Yes, we can. And we're working with hundreds of IFAs across the country at the moment to do exactly that, put it in process. But we can do that in ways that we've never been able to do before. We can help with things like data migration. For example, if you acquire a book and that book is in a CSV file, how can I easily get that book in, but mean that I keep the consistency of my clean data that I've worked so hard on over here and merge the two together before I even push that through and then start to give advice off the back of it? We can help you with that, and we can connect the dots between the two different parts of the system. If you do all of that hard work at the front, if we help you here to be able to better manage and visualize your data, all of that data can start to flow through. And this is what Nexus platform will start to look like. And so anyone that's on the call today, you are getting the sneak behind the curtain. This is what you'll start to see coming out within literally a week or two from now, and feel free to hang me on it. The process starts to move away from being, okay, these tools work in isolation to do a bit of the journey, to actually, what does this mean when we can bring data together? And it's really interesting time to be involved. So some of the problems that people are looking to address on there, they're talking about, right, how do we capture it at the front end? How do we onboard clients? Can we go through something just as basic as, right, using a transcript, but combining that maybe with the power of all the tools that we already use. If we know that 90% of clients may be existing clients and we're winning that extra 10, 15 on a monthly basis, or however you're looking to be able to grow your business, can we bring that information to life? Can you have a nice summary on the right-hand side that will tell you all of their situation, pulled through, their goals, their cash flow at a glance, anything to do with their data quality? Are there gaps? Are there bits that are missing? Can we overlay that? So it's not just a transcript that's going through, but actually we can add in our own enhanced notes. We can bring that technology together and start to actually say, okay, right, it's now not just relying on what we say, but we can add in also sentiment, things that we feel over on top of this, and make that enhanced collection of notes. Can we interact with the data differently? Can we go into chats and start to have that layer above, as you mentioned earlier, with your chat GPTs and the rest of it? We fundamentally think people will be interacting with the tools this way going forward. Will it be as simple as that actually the advisor comes into the system and says, summarize what's happened in the last review, bring that information to light? Were there any actions? Great. Can we make some meaningful actions off the back end of that? And then from a compliance and an audit trail perspective, can we then capture all that information, but capture the history? Can we use that information in one space to then start to actually tailor outcomes and feed that information through into things like suitability? Right, we've now got a history of conversations. When we're bringing in, say, your portfolios and we're bringing in the recommendations in there, how do they meet up? How does it really show in the end output to the client that you've understood their goals and that you can combine that together with your recommendation? And so we're starting to bring these things through. You will see other features that come into this, even just like little quick tools that are going to help you along the way. One of the most basic forms of bringing information out. And I think there was a question earlier, forgive me, I've forgotten the name who asked it, where we were talking about, how do we get platform data into here? We collect the data across the board from the platforms through Command Deck. You can see that. We give you that one single source of truth. Whether you want that in your CRM, we can push it back to your CRM. If you just want your own data management lake, we can create that for you. From there, we collect in all that richness of data and feed it through into a platform that you can then interact with your clients. And you can use it in various different ways. And we'll start to bring that through in the wealth planner workflow, which I'm hoping if we book in more of these as well, we'll start to show you what that looks like. But in various other meaningful ways, even if it's just a short-term benefit that you want to be able to go in, generate medium scans off the front end, for anything that you want to be able to grab. Just those quick, easy access tools for advisors to get what they need.
Mate, I've got loads of questions, but obviously I want you to continue showing people what they're here to see ultimately.
Yeah, no, absolutely fine. Look, I'm fine to be able to open up to questions because there's a lot to be able to see and a lot to be able to unpack.
Yeah.
But we're also running specific webinars on this over the next 2 weeks. And we'd encourage us to say, look, we'll send out invites to everyone to be able to say, look, if you're interested to be able to see what this looks like in practice. Obviously,
are you cheating on me already, Matt?
Lee, you're going to be co-hosting on the other side.
No, look,
we've got to bring in friends.
Yeah, exactly. This is super cool, guys and girls in the chat. If you've got any questions, then look, now's your time. Fire them away. James obviously was mentioning about the platforms, the data on FE. Just needs a link between the platforms whereby the data automatically pulls through. Transactions are updated. Do you see this becoming like a single source of truth for a financial planning firm's business? Is this where ultimately you'd see people starting their day? Do you think people are going to fire up their laptops straight onto Nexus?
So what we see today, maybe it's easier to explain where we are. We have people that are in systems like FE Analytics and Cash Calc for hours each day.
Yeah.
Could be 6 hours on average or something like that across the board. Whether it's just that, it's not constantly being used, but it's being used for part of the process, right?
Yeah.
So the way that it starts off is, look, we know there is a journey for everything to be able to go on. All of the legacy apps will remain within the system in one space so you can capture it. You're not having to toggle out and go into different browsers, the rest of it. It stays in one place. But the real value of that is the workflow that you're trying to produce.
Mm.
It's no different to how it is today. The problem with it today is that the journey is just a bit of a Frankenstein. You stop off here, you move over here, you jump between this system, you move like so. The difference of putting it into one space, obviously, you start to cut down on that time, but you underpin it with the same data. So as long as you've got the trust and you cut down on the time, you're really starting to address two of the big problems.
Yeah.
And so we eventually, or my view on this is that these historic systems will start to move away. They'll be replaced by the functions. And the functions are really what we want to be able to lead to because they are tied to the end client outcomes. It becomes a far more client-centric system.
Will this eventually link back to open record on IO, open record on Xplan? So you can start here and then just simple click, you're into that record in that field, and
it's exactly that. Yeah. Wherever you want to be able to start your journey. So, we've had these deep integrations and we've got great partnerships with all of the CRM systems. We've got a different relationship even now with the platforms than ever before, because historically for FE, we've been providing data to the platforms.
Yeah. Now it's the other way.
Now it's coming both ways.
Yeah.
That was our job, really, to connect this ecosystem, to bring it together, was to start to bring in the different values. And if you're doing that, it's a very different conversation that we have. We can help the platforms just as much as they can help us. And in turn, we can overall help to improve the advice journey.
Why wouldn't someone be interested in this?
It's a good question. I think the way that we are today, the challenge that people will have will be knowing what part of the process they want to address first.
Okay.
When you look at something where it brings a lot of pieces together, your initial pain point today might just be, right, I just need this bit fixed. And it's often what we're finding. If people are looking at where they're going to partner their technology spends over the next year, 2 years, if you're going to get from 4 to 6 down to 1 to 3, what's the criteria that you're going to use? You're going to be thinking things like, okay, what underpins it? How much do I trust it? How's it going to grow? What's it, is it going to be invested in? Where's it going to get to eventually? And then also, what parts of the journey is it not going to do for me? And so it's a very interesting dynamic that we're finding, because there's a lot of questions to be answered, and it makes it really hard for people to be able to pick who to go with in one setting. So what we found is that, look, people will take individual journeys, and it's not saying that, you have to eat all your lunch at once, right? There's different ways that you can come into this. You can use it for certain parts, and then really it's down to you to feel the benefits. The proof will be in the pudding. If you start to see that, okay, right, this makes sense, that I've already got this in here, and actually I'm now spending time where I've gone, oh, this is great, I use it for this purpose, and I collect this information, but then I go and stick it over here. And you suddenly start to realize, you're like, why am I going to stick it over there?
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer. The difference, I think, that will also come in, and I relate this back to switching bank accounts. Think how far that's come over the years, switching bank accounts.
Yeah. Well, click of a button and you get 100 quid.
Click of a button, you get, think how much that has changed, right?
Yeah.
I genuinely think those things will come into the industry as well, that it will just become, that the friction will be removed. And it'll be far easier to choose that if you want to work with best of breed, there'll be solutions to work with best of breed, and the right players will be sat in that mix. If not, and you want to be able to bring it in-house, it'll be because you feel the efficiencies, you reap the rewards on the back end of it, and your clients get better outcomes.
Does this also feed into like your Outlook? Is this being read by Outlook? So if you get an email coming to your Outlook and it says, Matt, I'm free to meet you next Wednesday at 4:00, does it feed into that? Does it make a meeting around that? Is everything just being read?
Exactly that. Next action. So look, from the back end of this, where does this information go? You might need to be able to send that onto your power planner. You might be sending something onto your client. Both links will link straight back into your Outlook, connect up, and you can go and be in charge of that communication. And everything can work in the same way that our tools work today, off of templates. You can build those templates. You can customize them. The aim, I think, of any of the groups today is to be, how do you make something bespoke but scalable?
Yeah.
It's no different. That is exactly where these layers come in. They allow you to take more control of your output, what makes you you, but at the same time, they give you that scalability that, it gives you the benefit of cost. It brings the connected data flows together. And like we said before, there's so many different variables. Whatever one works for you, you can find a way to be able to join the dots.
So when it comes to onboarding a client, your LOAs, Does the data gathered come back here and then distributed to your CRMs and everything else?
It's a really good point. One of the things that we'd actually worked on in the background, and we do this already for our asset management clients, just a really simple extraction tool. And you'll see it's down as coming soon on my demonstration today. But it's actually, as I say, these are some of the parts that I get, I get free reign to be able to show, and some of the parts
Some
get
you're not.
still behind the curtain. So there's more to come. But in short, the way we see it is that the tool itself is the same. It doesn't matter where you put it. It's just extraction, right?
Yeah.
Then you're just feeding in whatever document you want to. The way that we are actually doing this, and it's down as upload fact finds, but this will very shortly change to something much broader, will be any piece of data. What if it's prospectus, not just a fact find? You want to be able to find an easy way to be able to put in documentation and strip out what you need to then use that meaningful data in your ecosystem.
Yeah.
That's the key. And that's what we're working on.
Yeah. Just want to quickly call out, it's 11 a.m. That's the hour. Obviously, me and Matt are going to hang around for as long as need be, as long as there's questions coming over. Cameron says, that's the dream. You switch style for pensions. And I can imagine that you'll have a whole rally of people and advisors and ops and everyone else behind you on that one, Cameron. If you got any questions, if you want to, see anything else or ask Matt anything about maybe what's here and what's to come and what the roadmap looks like for Nexus, I think it looks absolutely awesome. I think it will be a place where people do tend to start. I think people will open up their laptops and the first place they might log in now is Command Deck, right? It might be, this is where I start, Nexus AI. I think it's awesome. How many platforms are you logging into a day? And if you could just eliminate that and log into one, I know what I'd do. But look, everybody has a preference, right? So if anybody's got any questions, let us know. As always, give us your feedback on upon exiting today's webinar. Feedback form will pop up. Let us know your views, your thoughts. I do believe there'll be a part on there where you can meet with Matt as well. If you'd like to find out a little bit more about Nexus, please do let us know in the feedback form. Any questions, let us know. But Matt, I love this. And like you said, we're just scratching the surface at the moment. You are answering a lot of questions and solving a lot of problems for a lot of people in the industry at the moment. But this is merely the start of something that's gonna grow arms and legs. Just like any piece of tech, the more users you have, the more ideas that are going to be coming your way, right? Guys, wouldn't it be nice if it did this? Right, let's go and do that then. It becomes that simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, completely. And, fundamentally, you will see things shape quicker across the industry. And I think that's going to be the biggest change. The best thing that we can do is obviously how we keep everyone up to date, making sure that we keep the client at the heart of it, and then continuing to build out on the capabilities because it's endless. And I'd love the chance, if anyone that is online is just thinking, look, this is something that's not been approached. This is the part that, if you have all these data sets together, this is really where the power is. I'm all ears. We're always here for the journey, and we work really closely. Our product teams are constantly running workshops, which we'd love to invite, any of you guys along to come and be involved, have your say.
No, love that. I've got a question, mate. What about people like Voyant? Are they going to be integrated into this sort of system? Can, if cash calc isn't, the preferred cash flow modeling tool for an advice firm, some people I've used Voyant from day one. I don't really want to change that. Can that sit within this, and can Nexus feed and do all of the wonderful stuff, even if it's not going directly into an FE product, if you like?
Yes, it literally. So the way that it'll work is that as a business, we want to remain open architecture.
Yeah.
Connecting in. We've got over 28 integrations across our different sources. That's not including just the platform integrations that we have separate to that. This is just different bits of kit. And so very much so, we will always look to either build, buy, partner, work with different groups and be able to keep that so that you have an option either which way, whether you're using parts or the sum of all the parts. It's entirely up to you. I think the difference will be is that over time, it's on us to be able to see, okay, well, what are the gaps? Where is it really that you drive the efficiency from? And Is it that, right, the tools have something significant that's being missed in here? Fundamentally, our aim is to be able to help support the advice process, everything in between, say, going from maybe a CRM all the way to platform and execution. So the more that's in there and the more feedback, that people have, it will constantly evolve.
So Nexus potentially is just removed Control C, Control V from everybody's keyboard, right?
That's the aim.
That. Love that. Peter has asked, how do I get involved with the workshops?
It's a great question, Peter. We'll send round some invites as well. We'll make sure that we kind of give a debrief after today and when our next workshops are coming up. We'd love to have you involved.
Perfect. So we'll let the guys at FE send you all an email. Just give you a heads up on when those dates are coming. So to say thank you for everybody for joining us. For the purpose, I'll stop the recording and we will continue the conversations if there's any further questions. Thank you very much.